There's no need to wait up for me, Sarah. I still have half a dozen of these character statements to write up.
And I suppose it couldn't possibly wait until tomorrow morning.
I'm afraid not. Mr. Enfield will be coming to collect them first thing before his court appearance.
Is he the one accused of...
Impropriety. Absolutely absurd. I've known Richard for around 15 years. We play on the same cricket team on Sundays. Never have I seen him do anything improper in my life. And neither of any of these people.
Who are they all?
The rest of the cricket team.
As long as he's paying you for all these extra hours.
Well...
Gabriel?
Oh, he's a friend, Sarah.
I do hope this charitable concern you're running one day turns into a viable law practice.
It will. With its own premises, I promise.
And strictly 9 to 5 hours? You know how too much work plays havoc with your digestion.
8 to 6. With half an hour for lunch.
Don't be too long coming to bed, or else I might be asleep.
Gabriel?
Henry!
Sorry it's so late. Your maid didn't want to let me in, but I'm afraid I was rather insistent.
It's a pleasure to see you anytime, Henry. Please take a seat. I don't think we've spoken since.
Since the funeral.
Gosh, it's been as long as that.
You did a fine job dealing with my parents' estate.
Well, with you having no siblings or family of your own was really rather straightforward.
Still got the old trouble?
Sarah tells me it's from overworking.
Nonsense. It's acid. Got a gift for you. My latest publication.
A compendium of alkaline preparations for soothing of the digestive tract.
Alkaline preparations, dear boy. The natural enemy of excessive stomach acid.
That's work.
Already forgotten your schoolboy chemistry, Gabriel. Alkaline neutralizes acid. It's like a battle between good and evil, if you will. One of the ways in which nature creates a balance.
Well, it's much appreciated, Henry. But did you come all this way into town in the middle of the night to give me this book?
Not entirely. With me becoming the owner of the entire family estate, it occurred to me that perhaps I should get my own affairs in order, just in case.
I see.
Here's a will. I should like you to witness my signature on it and to hold it until it becomes pertinent.
Very well. What's this? In the event of my demise, all of my possessions are to be given to my friend and benefactor, Mr. Hyde.
That's correct.
Hyde. I don't think I've had the pleasure. Mr. Hyde will present himself in a timely manner to receive said possessions. Should he fail to do so, the entire estate is to be distributed by my solicitor, Gabriel Utterson, in whichever way he sees fit. That sounds like it could be quite the undertaking, Henry.
I believe Mr. Hyde will be most keen to receive his inheritance.
I hope you don't mind me asking, Henry, but we've seen very little of you since the funeral. And not just me. We haven't seen you at any of the usual gatherings.
I've been busy working hard on my book and other things.
And now this Mr. Hyde is suddenly your great friend and benefactor. Excuse my curiosity, but I've never heard of him.
I had hoped, Gabriel, that as a friend, you would simply do as I asked.
Of course, Henry.
And as for your fee,
Oh, no, think nothing of it. I'm sure this will be worth its weight in gold.
you're a fine young man, Gabriel. I was proud to be your father's friend. And I'm proud to be your friend and client. You believe in justice and righting wrongs. And so do I. This is a way of righting a very great wrong. That's all you need to know. Well, you seem to have lots to be getting on with. So I'll see myself out.
It was a pleasure to see you, Henry.
You too, my friend. And remember, just do as I've asked when the time comes. Make good use of that book.
I'm sorry. I'll charge the next client. I promise.
Mr. Utterson? Mr. Gabriel John Utterson? Are you or are you not Gabriel John Utterson, legal advisor to Dr. Henry Jekyll?
Yes?
My name is Inspector Newcomb, and I'd be very much obliged if you'd come along with us, sir.
What?
This is a matter of life and death, sir.
Has something happened to Henry?
In a manner of speaking, sir. Any change, Constable?
No, sir. He still won't come out.
Look, please, could you just let me know what's going on?
This is all very nice. Henry Jekyll's quite well off, I take it. Do you happen to know anything of his whereabouts last night?
I'm rather more concerned about where he is right now, Inspector.
Right now, he's shut away in his laboratory and is refusing to come out. What's more, he claims to have a pistol trained on the door and is threatening to shoot anyone who enters.
What? I've never heard anything so absurd.
I'd save your reaction, sir, until you've heard the worst of it. I'm sorry to inform you, sir. We have an eyewitness who swears blind they saw Henry Jekyll commit murder last night.
I'm sorry, Inspector, but you clearly have never met Henry Jekyll. Where is he? In his laboratory, did you say?
Yes, it's...
I know where it is.
But do take care, sir. He does claim to have a pistol.
Henry Jekyll is not a murderer. And I'm quite certain he's never fired a pistol in his life.
It's Mr. Enfield, isn't it?
Call me Richard.
I'm sure Gabriel will be back soon. He was working on your case all night. Would you like some tea while you wait?
Got anything stronger?
Yes, of course. I was sorry to hear about your trouble, Mr. Enfield.
Not as sorry as I was, I can tell you. Haven't been out to show my face in public for days. It's terribly inconvenient. And the cricket season is almost over.
You don't understand, Inspector. Henry Jekyll wasn't just a client. He was a family friend. I've known him all my life. Kind and generous to a fault. There is simply no way that man could have committed murder.
Well, I'm telling you, Mr. Utterson, I have a witness who says otherwise. And last night's murder fits exactly with 4 other mysterious disappearances that have occurred over the last few weeks. It may just be that your family friend was not only a murderer, but a serial murderer.
Impossible.
A man doesn't take his own life for no reason. But a man who's guilty of a terrible crime and who realizes he's been caught in the act.
Henry could have been a victim of murder himself. There was plenty of time between hearing the gunshot and me entering the room for someone to have placed the pistol in his hand and made their escape.
I think you've been reading too many detective novels, Mr. Utterson. In my experience, the most obvious conclusion usually prevails.
Well, perhaps that's because you failed to look any further, Inspector.
The only reason I entered her room in the first place was to admire a particular painting I've been told was above the bed. And by the worst of coincidences, the maid had chosen that exact day to polish the floorboards. So it was like skating on the Thames. And I'd missed an appointment at the tailor's to have the waist taken into my trousers. So, as bad luck would have it, down they came, over I went, and I ended up on the bed. And when I realized poor Doris was in the bed as well, I got the shock of my life. I tried to explain to her, but she was hysterical. You know how women are.
Yes.
So she screams for her father, and before I have time to compose myself, he bursts in, all red in the face, accusing me of all sorts.
How terrible it must have been.
All I know is thank heavens for decent people like Gabriel Utterson. To Gabe, may he prove himself to be a better lawyer than he is a cricketer. Did he manage to get those character statements he was telling me about?
I believe so, yes. I think they're all here on the desk.
You know, you're not a bad figure of a woman yourself.
I'm sorry?
No wonder Gabe never brings you to watch his play. He'd have a hard time keeping you to himself.
Mr. Enfield.
Still, while the cat's away, eh? Give me a kiss at least. I deserve that after putting up with your husband's terrible batmanship all these years.
Mr. Enfield, please.
Call me Richard. Come on, you're not frigid like Doris, are you? Pretty little thing like you.
I'm warning you.
Gabe doesn't need to know. Dope wouldn't notice if we did it on a bowling crease in the middle of a match.
Right. I grew up with 2 brothers, Mr. Enfield. I know quite well how to deal with an overbearing little boy.
Oh, my face! What have you done? I'm due in court in an hour.
Perhaps I should come with you. Explain how it happened.
No, I...
Is everything all right, Mum?
I don't know. Is everything all right, Mr. Enfield?
Yes. Yes. Everything's fine. I was just leaving.
I understand this is a difficult time, Mr. Utterson. So I'm going to overlook your little outburst for the time being.
What's this?
The constable found it on the body. And it's addressed to you. Now, by rights, I ought to confiscate this as potential evidence.
An accused man is permitted private correspondence with his legal representative. Our whole system of justice relies upon it.
An accused man? He's dead, Mr. Utterson.
But he still stands accused, doesn't he?
If there's anything pertinent to my investigation in that envelope, I expect to see it and you down at Scotland Yard at your earliest convenience.
Never mind that now, Hattie. Gabriel will be back soon. He'll need a good meal to settle his stomach before I tell him what's happened.
Before I go, Mum, there's just one thing.
Yes?
This week's wages, Mum.
Oh, yes.
And the week before?
Yes, of course. I'll be sure to have Gabriel see to it when he gets back.
Thank you, Mum.
Should have all this wrapped up by the end of the week, don't you think? I love an open and shut case.
But Constable Evans said...
Leave it be.
The cause of death.
Tell me, Constable, when Sir Robert Peel established the Metropolitan Police Service, what was its main purpose?
To solve crime, sir.
Incorrect. It's the prevention of crimes. And where are crimes recorded?
In the casebook.
So does it not follow the fewer crimes recorded in the casebook, the more successful the Metropolitan Police Service has been in preventing them? And the more successful we are, the more long lunches and early finishes are overlooked.
Yes, sir, but the cause of death
is suicide. The last thing I want on my plate is another murder.
Gabriel, I need to tell you something. What is it?
Henry's dead.
What? What happened?
It's too horrible to even think about. He took his own life. And that Inspector Newcomb seems to think he took 5 others before it. 5 murders.
How could they think that?
I don't know. A girl was killed in town last night. Someone saw it happen.
But Henry was here last night. Hattie told me she opened the door to him at almost midnight. You didn't mention that.
Well, I didn't want to make things worse. Confirming that Henry was in town so late.
So you didn't tell them. Is that wise?
I don't know.
Gabriel, if you're caught lying to the police, then your legal career will be over before it's even started.
I didn't lie.
You know what I mean.
What do you mean before it's even started?
What's that?
We found out in Henry's body. A letter of some sort addressed to me.
Aren't you going to open it?
I hardly dare to.
Gabriel, you've been staring at that letter all day. Will you please get on and open it?
Right. What's all this?
What does it say? Read it aloud.
Dear Gabriel, pages herein mark the sworn confession of Dr. Henry Jekyll. pains me to relate that I find myself responsible for the loss of 5 souls. I realize this must come as a shock to you, Gabriel, my dear friend. I'm therefore writing this confession so that you may know the true cause of these most terrible events.
Since the death of my parents, I had been consumed utterly by my work. It had occurred to me that whilst the body must inevitably break down with age, the process of decline is clearly hastened by the impurities absorbed as a matter of course in day-to-day existence. The simple acts of eating, drinking, even breathing, bring into the body a host of undesirable chemical elements and microorganisms. If such impurities were the fuel of decline and decay, I reasoned that if they could be somehow removed, mixed out, filtered, or burnt away, one could potentially produce a tincture so pure, so free from all that is destructive, it might be sufficient to nourish the sick back to health, perhaps even from the very brink of death. An elixir of life, if you will. I worked long into the night and into the morning, sleeping for an hour and then returning to my work. As the elixir grew clearer and sweeter, the gathering filtrate grew darker and increasingly malodorous. This in itself reassuring evidence that my theory was correct. How could such a foul concoction not be harmful to the health and even spirit? And so it was. In my haste to complete the experiment, I found myself in such a state of exhaustion that the idea came to mind that a sip from the elixir might be sufficient to re-energize me and allow me to continue to work. But such was my lack of concentration, I made a fatal error. I took into my hand that glass beaker of the purest decay and foulness and pressed it to my lips. Before I could stop myself, the dark matter had entered my body and almost instantly burnt its way into my very soul.
Go easy, Gabriel. Your stomach will thank you for it.
From here on, my account must of necessity be of a brief and imprecise nature. I cannot define precisely the effect the mixture had on me, except to say that I believe that what I had inadvertently created was perhaps the very essence of evil.
All I know is that I was instantly imbued with an impulse that was hitherto entirely alien. The impulse to seize, to dominate, and to destroy. Whether this was the release of natural base instincts long dormant, or the pollution of goodness with bad, I cannot say. But I was quite simply transformed into some being other than Dr. Henry Jekyll. Somehow, I found myself in town, not once, but over and again, 3 times to my certain knowledge, where I met with ladies of the night. Bringing them back to the house, I indulged in vices and violence too wicked to describe, before disposing of the women in a manner that I knew would leave no trace.
Cremating their bodies in the powerful furnace that heats the estate.
When one of the women refused my instruction to return to the house with me, the poison in me raged again. I took hold of her arm, but she fought back, eliciting such a fury in me that I rained down blows upon her head. Only after
I had cruelly taken her life did I finally return to my senses, brought on by the realization that this time I had been caught in the act. I don't know how long the concoction had me in its grip. Perhaps days, perhaps weeks. But as I write these words, I am filled with a remorse so great that I believe no redemption can ever be possible, and no forgiveness ever deserved. I have destroyed all that remained of my experiment, lest the evil I have inadvertently created should ever infect another soul. And as I now lay down the pen and proceed to seal up my confession, I bring the life of that unhappy Henry Jekyll to an end.
I'll burn it.
No.
It's a fabrication. I'll swear to it.
Whatever it is, it's evidence. In a murder case.
Well, confessions don't come any clearer than that.
Are you telling me you believe this? This nonsense about a concoction that transformed his personality? Made him commit murder?
You ought to join me down in the cells one time on a Friday night, Mr. Utterson. There's plenty of men down there who've taken a concoction or two and got themselves into trouble as a result.
It's hardly the same thing.
Look, it might well be nonsense, Mr. Utterson. It might be that Jekyll made the whole thing up in some sort of attempt to salvage his good reputation. But the fact remains, this confession matches exactly with the crimes in question. Not to mention, we have a witness coming in to make a statement this afternoon who saw Jekyll commit murder with her own eyes. Once that is signed and submitted, I will be informing the press first thing tomorrow morning that all the crimes have been solved and that the kidnapper and murderer was the late Dr. Henry Jekyll.
I'd like to meet the witness.
I think you've done enough already, Mr. Utterson.
As Dr. Henry Jekyll's legal representative, I am entitled to cross-examine any witness.
Legal representative? Henry Jekyll is dead. I'm not going to put a dead man on trial.
No, but you'll have him convicted without any opportunity to defend himself.
But the man has confessed.
Anyone could have forged this. No one saw him write it, and no one saw him pull the trigger on the pistol.
My witness saw him kill a girl.
I don't believe it.
Very well. I will permit you, as a courtesy, to sit in when I take the witness statement. But if you interfere in any way, I'll have you ejected.
You all right, Mum?
Just my hand. It was all right yesterday, but it's swollen up all red overnight. It's a good thing Gabriel left early.
Will you not tell him, Mum, about Mr. Enfield?
I'm waiting for the right time. The trouble with Gabriel is he sees the best in everybody.
You know, Mum, sometimes you sort of get a feeling for people, even if you only see them for an instant.
Yes?
I have a feeling Dr. Jekyll was a good man.
I hope you're right.
Never done nothing like this before.
Just take your time and try and remember everything clearly. My name is Inspector Newcomb, and this is Mr. Utterson. He's observing.
I already told the constable everything I seen.
Yeah, I know. This is just to make it official. Could you give me your full name, please?
It's Penny. Penny Keaton.
They call me Penny on account of that's how much I charge.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Keaton. That's fine. Now, could you tell me where you were when you first became aware of something unusual?
I was in my room, one wheelbarrow away, getting ready to start my work.
And what time is this?
Probably about 11 o'clock, I think.
What sort of work is it that you do that begins at 11 o'clock at night?
I should have thought that was obvious, Mr. Utterson. Please go on, Miss Keaton. What was it you heard?
Well, first of all, there was some chatter between a man and a woman. Then she started screaming, and it sounded like he was trying to drag her away.
And what did you do?
I ran over to my window to have a look, and that's when I saw him.
You saw who?
Dr. Jekyll. He was hunched over this girl lying on the ground. Laying into her he was. Pounding her on her head.
You're quite sure that's who it was?
Oh yeah.
How is it that you're so familiar with Dr. Jekyll? You must have known him previously to have recognised him.
Are you conducting this interview, or am I?
All the girls down wheelbarrow way know Dr. Jekyll.
Regular, was he?
Oh yeah. Every December, regular like clockwork, he used to go around all the poor houses, handing out medicine to all them what had sickly children. He cured my whooping cough when I was a little girl.
And what about the girl? Could you recognise her?
Yeah? Her name was Lily Palmer.
Can we assume her line of work was similar to your own?
Yeah. But I'd heard she was right picky. Probably why she started a fight with him.
Well, we're very grateful for your statement, Miss Keaton. Now, if there's nothing else, could you just fill out your name and address at the bottom of this paper and you can be on your way?
I ain't never used an ink pen before.
Allow me. So that's Penny Keaton. Keaton spelled Keaton.
If you say so.
And the address?
5A Wheelbarrow Way.
Is that all, Inspector?
Fine.
Can I go now?
Yes, of course, Miss Keaton. Thank you very much again.
You see, Inspector? Free medicine for the poor. That's the kind of man Henry Jekyll was.
You seem to be forgetting the minor detail about him beating a woman to death in the gutter.
It's a case of mistaken identity, I'm sure of it.
And the confession?
Forgery.
Mr. Utterson, does the phrase clutching at straws mean anything to you?
Look, if you go in front of the press tomorrow, the name Henry Jekyll will go down in history as some murderous crackpot. He at least deserves a fair hearing.
I told you there isn't going to be any trial.
Well, there has to be a proper investigation.
Do you know, Mr. Utterson, just how many unsolved crimes we have on the books at any one time? I've got an opportunity here to chalk up 4 kidnappings and a murder to a single culprit and shut down 5 active investigations in one fell swoop. I'm not about to give that up on a whim. However...
I must protest most...
However, if you can mount a credible challenge, I will take it into account. And with that in mind, I will postpone my announcement about the case until the day after tomorrow. You've got a day, mate.
Door's not locked. Actually, ain't got a lock. Bed's by the window. I'll be with you in a minute.
Sorry. Good afternoon. I was actually wondering if you could tell me any more about what you saw.
You're not a copper, are you?
No. Actually, I'm a friend of Henry Jekyll's. I'm just trying to understand what happened.
Well, you can ask me what you like. But if you don't mind, I've got to get on with my laundry.
Yes, yes, please, of course.
Have a sit down, why don't you?
On the bed.
That's where everyone else sits.
So, this is the window you're looking out through?
Yeah. He looked me clear in the eye when he stood up. Like he wasn't bothered.
What are you doing?
Just doing my laundry. I've only got one frock. I can't wear it and wash it at the same time, can I?
Please stay behind the screen.
Suit yourself.
What were you saying?
I've only got one frock.
No, about Henry. That he wasn't concerned that you'd seen him.
Yeah. Funny now I think about it. He just looked at me.
As if he wanted to be seen.
You what?
Please!
I've got to get on. I'm going out to work again in a bit.
Where is your place of work?
You're sitting on it, love.
Look, you've been very helpful, thank you. I will leave you my card. And, something for your trouble.
Much obliged. The old thing's going to give me nightmares for sure. Keep seeing him, hunched over her body, with his walking cane in his hand. Bring it down on her head, over and over.
With what in his hand?
You were right the first time. Not my real name, of course. But it seemed a suitable epithet for a man hidden away for half a century.
What is all this?
I would love to explain, Mr. Utterson. It's a very long story. I really must be on my way. I'll be in touch in due course to claim my inheritance.
Your inheritance?
Well, legal and above board. I trust Henry signed the will in your presence.
You seem to be forgetting I have a pistol.
And you seem to be forgetting I have your wife. Acid, Mr. Utterson. This is my own special formula. I'm sure you've heard stories of piranha fish in jungle rivers that can strip a man to the bone in 5 minutes. Well, according to my experiments, this particular formulation can strip a woman to the bone in a minute flat.
Your experiments?
We men of science all have our own special interests. The more my brother believed that acid was the cause of all the woes of the body, the more fascinated with its properties I became.
You and Henry were brothers?
Identical twins, as if you hadn't noticed. Identical in all but our fates. Our father was a scientist too. And with the arrival of twin boys came the opportunity to carry out his greatest scientific study ever. To answer the eternal question, nature versus nurture. What would happen if you took two identical boys and raised one in light and freedom and the other in darkness and captivity? A cruel and shameful exercise, but once begun, could never be disclosed. So, I remained hidden, locked away, out of sight.
Did Henry know he had a brother?
Of course he did. A matter of great shame to him all of his life. Not until our parents both died did he come to me to beg for my forgiveness. My requests were quite straightforward. I would remain hidden, out of sight, to protect his good reputation. All I wanted was a chance to carry out my own studies, my own laboratory, down here, and the freedom to come and go as I pleased, under cover of darkness, of course. And so, my experiments could begin. It began simply enough. Small rodents were enough to satisfy my curiosity. Mice and rats were easy to come by down here. It fascinated me to see the dirt and the grime from their matted fur stripped instantly away by the initial dip into a mild acid bath. And then, in time, the fur itself fell away, exposing the raw pink skin underneath. And then slowly, like peeling away the layers of an onion, the creature would grow smaller and smaller. The skin, the muscle, the organs, and then finally, even the tiny bones dissolving. Well, what's the good of that, you may ask?
I see no good in it at all.
Quite right. If one wishes to dispose of a rodent, there are more efficient ways. But if one wishes to be rid of a human...
You mean Henry?
It had occurred to me to be rid of Henry, to take his place, to live a life that I was entitled to but had been denied me all these years. But to do that, there would have to be no trace left. None at all. It took several weeks, but finally it was ready. My life-size acid bath. Henry even paid for all the materials. The poor sap had no idea. But how to test it? At first, I thought of the staff. There were always young girls running about the property, fetching this or polishing that. I'd heard the sounds of their feet for years, and now I finally caught a glimpse of them. But Henry would have noticed if one went missing. In any case, I'd learnt over the years from newspaper stories that there was a different type of girl that was readily available if one knew where to look. The first came along with me easily enough. I'd taken to wearing clothes that belonged to Henry, and I fancy I looked quite the gentleman. The only difference between us was my walking cane. Years of cramped conditions had weakened my limbs and left me with a pronounced limp. I knew I would have to work on that. Of course, human flesh and bone differs quite distinctly from that of a rodent. So it was necessary to first run tests on small samples. The results were frankly disappointing. Even the most brittle finger bone from a girl is almost 10 times the diameter of the largest rat bone. Several hours later, the remains were still recognizably human.
What became of the girl?
She bled out, died, made rather a mess. So into the bath she went. I knew the formula would do its job over the next few days. So that's how it went. Every day a new test subject, till I was satisfied with the acid.
Test subjects? These were human beings.
What am I if not a test subject? Am I not a human being? I treat others as others have treated me. No better, no worse. And then disaster struck. The fifth subject. This girl was smarter than the others, less impressed by my suit and silver cane. She wouldn't come, and when I took hold of her arm, she cried out. I did what I had to do. I struck her with my cane. Once, twice, and still she cried out, so I rained down a dozen blows till her brain was more out than in. As I looked up from her body, I saw the face of another girl looking at mine.
Penny Keaton.
Was that her name? A girl from room 5A.
Why didn't you hide your face?
Well, it occurred to me there and then that it was not my face that had been seen. For all intents and purposes, it was Henry's. So my plans changed. I realized that Henry was more valuable to me alive than dead, for any questionable act that I may be caught doing, henceforth could be blamed on him.
Then why did you shoot him?
You're racing ahead of yourself, Mr. Utterson. That night, he was away from the house, visiting you. I have written a will and given it to him to sign in your presence. But as misfortune would have it, you returned to the house at the same time. You saw my cane, caked in blood. There was no denying the evidence, so I told him everything about my experiments. He was incensed, even drawing the pistol that had once belonged to our father. But he lacked the fortitude to pull the trigger. We both knew that. And so, his final act of cowardice was to turn the pistol on himself, filled as he was with the guilt of what he had unleashed upon the world by setting me free. So in answer to your question, Mr. Utterson, I did not shoot my brother. It was suicide, plain and simple. It was just the matter of the witness to my crime unresolved. Henry had to take the blame. Of course, I was well aware of Henry's reputation as a do-gooder. If he were to commit a crime such as murder, there had to be a plausible reason. And so I hit upon the idea of an experiment, some complex formula that, when drunk, brought about an utter transformation of character that turned Jekyll into Hyde. And so Henry's confession was born. It was then just a case of firing another shot from the pistol into the floorboards to alert the police before quickly making my escape downstairs.
What is it you want?
First, put the pistol down.
Very well.
Walk up those stairs and out of this building. The lady and I are going on a little trip up north. I'll contact you regarding the sale of the estate and the transfer of funds. And when I'm satisfied, I will consider the matter of returning your wife to you.
How can you expect me to agree to that?
I do not trust the word of a gentleman.
Your brother was a gentleman. There's another word I can think of for you.
What do you mean?
Henry Jekyll was a man who garnered respect. I can only pity you. You may share his face, but you will never match his achievements.
Achievements? Maybe you'd like to taste my achievements. As a little glimpse of what's to come if you defy me.
No!
A little splash on the face. The constant reminder of your greatest mistake.
Don't do it!
It's already done.
I never knew you could punch like that. I suppose I better check.
Is he gone?
I think he's gone.
Thank you very much for your statement, Mr. Utterson. How's your wife holding up, if you don't mind my asking?
She's recovering well, thank you. I must say, she's surprisingly resilient.
And packs quite a right hook, apparently.
I know it all sounds outrageous, Inspector, but that's what happened. I swear. I mean, you saw the basement.
Well, I saw her basement, yes, with a modest laboratory setup. Might easily have belonged to Henry Jekyll.
But the vat of acid.
Yes, we drained that. With some difficulty, I might add.
Did you find any bodies?
We found some sludge, which may or may not have been organic in origin. Frankly, it could have been anything. The long and the short of it is, there's no real evidence this Mr. Hyde of yours existed at all.
So where does that leave Henry?
Well, I'm not convinced of his innocence, if that's what you mean. But I think that, providing there are no more mysterious disappearances, we can declare the matter to be closed.
Well, it's not exactly a not guilty verdict.
I told you there was never going to be any trial. Just be thankful I won't be going to the press with any of this nonsense. Got my own reputation to think of.
And am I still under suspicion of what happened to Penny Keaton?
As luck would have it, I had a visit this morning from a young gentleman who was prepared to make a statement on the condition of strict anonymity. Seems he was present at Miss Keaton's kidnapping. He didn't see much, but he saw enough to be quite certain it wasn't you.
Well, how could he be sure? Is it someone who knows me?
I couldn't say, Mr. Utterson. What are you so down about? You got what you wanted. Not to mention the matter of the inheritance.
What?
The inheritance. You did read this will, I take it? Mr. Hyde is to present himself in a timely manner to receive said possessions. Should he fail to do so, the entire estate is to be distributed by my solicitor, Gabriel Utterson, in whichever way he sees fit. Now, if we're to believe that what's left of Mr. Hyde currently resides at the bottom of my constable's bucket, that potentially makes you a very wealthy man, Mr. Utterson.
Oh, Hattie. Is Sarah up?
She's still resting. I thought it best to leave her be.
Yes. Yes, quite right. Hattie? Would you mind please taking this to the kitchen and seeing if we have the ingredients for one of Dr. Jekyll's preparations?
Of course.
What was that?
It was in the book.
Dear Gabriel, I suspect it may be some time before your digestive discomfort or possibly your dear wife Sarah forces you to pick up the book that I left with you. And so when you read this, it is likely that much will have come to pass that you will have found greatly surprising. As you probably know, I have a brother named Edward. His has been a most unfortunate life, and I hope that in time you will look upon him as an equal to me, as both a scientist and a friend. For now, I know he looks upon the world with suspicion and anger, as well anyone might do in his position. Please assure him there is still much good in this world. I don't think he knows. I can think of no one better suited to this task than you. Your friend, Henry.
You know, a place like this needs a lot of maintaining.
I know. It's almost certainly beyond my capability to manage. That's why I sold it.
You've what?
Sold it. Sold the lot. The building, the grounds, even the laboratory equipment.
But Henry...
Oh, Henry wouldn't have minded. He always hated the place. He always said it held too many bad memories for him. Now I know why.
So, how much did you sell it for?
Well, let's just say enough to fund a fully stocked medical bay in every poorhouse in London. In the name of Dr. Henry Jekyll.
That sounds like exactly what he would have wanted.
With just enough left over to cover the cost of a modest law firm with its own offices in the name of Gabriel John Utterson.
With 9 to 5 hours?
8 to 6. With half an hour for lunch.
How is your constitution these days?
Absolutely fine, thank you.
She wore diamonds on her face, beautiful and full of grace. All at once and at a glance, a sleight of hand, a second chance. No one knows or understands the reasons why the running man, incomplete and locked inside, like all the secrets that we hide. Shadows dance where they once danced, teardrops fall like shattered glass. Words are whispered with regret, like winter nights and wincy yet. Suicide, but no one died, like all the secrets that we hide. Secrets that we hide, unspoken. Demons we disguise with secrets and lies. All the last goodbyes are thrown away. Silence in its soul. Nothing left to say. You loved her more than she'd ever know. Was locked away, will never show. No lucky charm, no thunderball, no just for kicks, no curtain call. We can slip and we can slide.